one of my favorite books ever, and my favorite book by Ayn Rand is The Fountainhead. Now, um, I also love the movie The Fountainhead, although not as much as the book. And the movie The Fountainhead, unlike a lot of movies, is actually relatively true to its source material, which is not surprising since Ayn Rand um, wrote both the novel and the screenplay of her novel. Now, it's interesting, but I wrote a chapter on gender issues in this book. It's called Ayn Rand, Rape and Gender Issues. Now, in a lot of ways, Ayn Rand was very progressive for her time period regarding gender issues. Very progressive. Okay. In her first major novel, We the Living, it centers around a female character named Kira. And her female character is studying to be an engineer. She receives quite a bit of flack from those around her who think that's a very unfeminine choice. It's, she's a woman. Do you really want to do something like that? That is a man's job. But Kira doesn't let that bother her. Kira wants to be an engineer, and she is talented as an engineer. She likes, that area. It's where her skill is, and she's going to go for it. In The Fountainhead, the major female character is a journalist, Dominique Francone, which is a little bit more, kind of traditional for a woman. But again, during the time period, a little bit non-traditional, during a time period in which women were expected to be domestic. Okay, and then in her magnum opus, Atlas Shrugged, her major female character, Dagny Taggart, runs a railroad company. Very non-traditional. Again, their female characters tend to be very assertive and in non-traditional fields. They tend also to be very non-maternal. They don't have kids. They tend to be sexually adventurous. Okay. But Susan Brown Miller called her a traitor to her sex, because in The Fountainhead, she has what could be called a romanticized rape scene. Or at least the heroine, Dominique Francone, calls the first sex she has with Howard Rourke a rape. Now, Howard Rourke is meant to be a moral ideal. A moral ideal? Would he rape someone? And Ayn Rand was asked about that, and she said, well, it wasn't a real rape. It was a symbolic action that he knew she wanted. A man who would actually force himself against a woman against her wishes would be committing a dreadful crime. Okay. Now, I think in one way you have to understand her writing in this and other things is that she was writing as a romantic realist. It wasn't a completely realistic mode of writing. Okay, it's a romantic sort of thing. Okay, and as such, you can't see it in a completely realistic. You can't see it completely the way you would look at it as real life. It is a novel, and the characters are larger than life, and their actions are to some degree meant to illustrate philosophical and social truths, and not meant to reflect what would happen in real life. Okay, for example, um, Howard Rourke is seen as justified in blowing up and dynamiting um, Cortland homes because it gets basically mutilated or changed